Hello, Be Awesome listeners. This is episode 73 of the Be Awesome podcast, and I am your host, Joshua Peach, in the basement. I am a cellar dweller for this episode. My 2.5-year-old Chance decided to take a nap, and I got the opportunity to have a longtime friend, Erik Stolhanske, join me for this podcast, so we had to make it happen one way or the other, so I got a bed sheet up behind me and storage containers behind that. But Erik, welcome first and foremost to the Be Awesome podcast.
Thanks, Josh. Welcome to the brave new world we're in, right?
Yeah.
Bed sheets and basements and
whatever it takes. I got to open this up. One of the things that I share with my Be Awesome listeners and followers is the importance of relationships and connections. And I always like to share how my relationships and connections start. And yours is a very unique one. I'll take myself back to, I think it was about 2012, might have been even 2011, but I was at a conference in Myrtle Beach, and my Dallas Cowboy fan, Dan Frawley, was with me. He came down from North Carolina for a night of drinking and lighting off fireworks on the beach. And another friend of mine, Greg Mesher, who owns a whole bunch of bars down there. One of them is known as The Office, and he has a billboard out front, and he always puts my name up in lights, if you will, when I come to town. So I can't remember exactly what it said, but I think it was something like "Welcome Dan and Peaches to the beaches" or something like that. And Dan took a picture of the billboard and sent it to Erik, who I've never met. And there was some response back that was funny, but it was like, "Who's Peaches?" type of thing. And we ended up having kind of a dialogue back and forth, talking about life and things that we do and all this stuff. Never knew each other. Next thing you know, lining up speaking gigs for Erik and getting to spend some time with them and enjoying ourselves, and have had such an amazing friendship over these last 8 years. Even though we've only seen each other a handful of times, always have made a point to stay in touch, and truly appreciate you as a friend and as an inspiration that we'll get into here. But that's how we met. A billboard in Myrtle Beach with our name on it that happened to get texted, and that's as great as connections can make. So appreciate your friendship all these years, my friend.
yeah, funny how fate keeps certain people together, right? A lot of friendships just fade away, and some stay connected.
Yeah.
And start for the weirdest, whimsical reasons.
Oh, absolutely. So yeah, I want to cover a bunch of stuff. I could cover about 17 hours of things, but one of the first things that I think is really fitting right now is you and your tagline of irrational determination and foolish perseverance that you use in your speaking. Talk about who is Erik? Like, who are you? Let the world know, and let's then dig into some stuff.
Open up the Pandora's box here. What character do I want to reveal? There's so many options. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I have, some people may know me as different professions. I mean, I think I'm probably most recognized as one of the actors in a sketch comedy group called Broken Lizard. Probably most recognized as playing Rabbit in the comedy movies Super Troopers and Super Troopers 2. But, I guess about 10 years ago when I was meeting you, I started embarking on a speaking tour. And so I've been traveling around the country, and like you're talking about this speech that I was giving called Rational Determination and Foolish Perseverance, which I still give. I gave it a week or two ago up at Tony Horton's house in Los Angeles. Tony Horton is one of the founders of P90X. Fitness guy, and he does these summits at his house, and I spoke up there about it. And the reason behind it, I should explain, is that I was born without a fibula, and so I was raised on a wooden leg. And so my whole life has sort of been this rational determination to try to just be like everybody else, go out and do everything as everyone else did, as kids having two regular legs. And then going on and having a career in Hollywood and trying to climb that mountain, which was equally as difficult as trying to climb the mountain of having one leg as a kid and playing sports like kickball and baseball and skiing and stuff like that.
Yeah, and you did all those things. You played all the sports, and prosthetics. I'm not going to reveal your age, but prosthetics when you were younger are not like the prosthetics of today.
No, quite different. It's shocking. It's never that long ago. I mean, I think maybe like 20 years ago, they were still made out of like duct tape and cherry trees.
Yeah.
I mean, unbelievable.
So Tony Horton, P90X, you know, probably one of the most well-known exercise programs. What were you doing there?
Yeah, so I was years ago before, I think it was Club Dread. I was trying to think of this with Tony. I was getting ready for a film, and I was training at the gym, and I think it was Club Dread. It was after Super Troopers. I was working on the gym, trying to get in shape. We were gonna be shooting in Mexico, and I knew I was gonna have to have like, my shirt off and stuff, so I wanted to be in shape. And there was a flyer that said, "Come try the hardest thing you'll experience in your life, mentally, emotionally, physically." And it was a test group for this thing for extreme fitness, and it was called P90X. At the time, nobody had heard of it. It was Jane Fonda and Richard Simmons were like home fitness videos. This was 15 years ago. So I thought, well, maybe I'll do this, and it'll be a good reason, and a good way to get in shape for the movie, and it's 90 days of free training. So I thought I like to challenge myself. I like to try things that are hard, and at the same time, I would get in shape for Club Red. So I do it, and about, it's really hard. I was having trouble struggling with it. It was very difficult to do all the exercises because, like I said, it was kind of this extreme home fitness thing. And there's a lot of yoga and legs and balancing stuff. It was hard for me. And Tony recently told me this week that he was like, man, this guy's having trouble in here. But he said after like day 60, you stuck it out. And one day you showed up in shorts and everyone like did a double take and looked at you and like, what's that? And I was like, I got a prosthetic. And they're like, what? I hadn't really told anybody. And then by like day 60, things started kicking in. It took like 2 months for me to sort of like get the strength and balance to do this thing. And then by the time I finished 90 days of it, Tony said, wow, that was really interesting. The process you went through, do you think you'd ever be interested in being in the P90X video in the plyo discipline, which is East German skiing technique? It's a lot of jumping and bouncing and hopping. It's a lot of things you use your leg. And he said, it would be interesting, if you did it and people were watching it, they'd be motivated if they thought that they had challenges like diabetes or trouble getting off the couch or just anything. The reason they'd say, well, there's a kid doing a prosthetic, let me see if I can't motivate myself to get up as well and do it as well. So I thought about it and I was like, no thanks, I'm not interested. And he's like, what? Why not? And I said, well, I've been trying to act in movies my whole life, and I don't want to get typecast as being just a kid with a wooden leg, so then I'll only get parts that casting directors think I can do. Mm-hmm. I want to be seen as like an able-bodied guy, so no one pigeonholes me only being as like a guy in a wheelchair or somebody, a vet or somebody comes back, which is great. I mean, I love to play those parts, but Hollywood, I feel like has trouble seeing beyond just the obvious.
Right.
And at first I said, no, I'm good, thanks. And he came back to me. He's like, Stolhanske, we gotta talk. Come on, think about it, man. Like something you've been kind of hiding and embarrassed of your whole life. This would be a cool thing to look back on and say, wow, well, maybe I had a prosthetic leg when I was a kid, born without a fibula, that helped actually help some people in their lives. You could use it as a way to help motivate people. I said, well, okay. I never really thought of it that way. So maybe I should be so selfish, or maybe I should be in the P90X video to try to help motivate people. And so I agreed to it. And that was sort of like my prosthetic coming out day when I appeared in the P90X videos in shorts. And I kind of came out the world that I had a prosthetic, and just said, screw it. Wherever the chips fall from here, hopefully people will be inspired.
Yeah. The part of the story that I've never, I've heard that story a number of times in your talks and things. I don't think I ever heard the part where you went 60 days of the original with, assuming you were wearing full pants or sweatpants.
Sweatpants, yeah.
How did that feel? Like, I guess you had to put a level of vulnerability with yourself on day 60. I mean, or were you just really, really hot and you just said, I can't wear pants anymore? But like, what was that like to be able to, because that had to be enormous, right? That had to be just a huge weight on you and lifted from you when you hit day 60 and said, you know what, screw it, I'm going to put shorts on instead of pants.
It was a cool moment. Yeah, it was, I was always embarrassed of being the handicapped kid growing up. So I always used to wear, like the summer times, you've heard this in my talk, but the summer times I always dread the arrival of summer because everyone will go down to the beach or the lakes, and they're wearing shorts and stuff like that. And I was always embarrassed to be the handicapped kid. So I would always wear pants all over. I mean, I remember my parents taking us on a vacation to Florida, and I went to the beach in Florida. It's like 139 degrees, and I'm out there in jeans, just dripping sweat. I'm sure I probably drew more attention to myself wearing jeans on the beach in Florida than I would if I had a prosthetic, if I was just wearing shorts and a prosthetic. And I remember like playing basketball in like junior high, and I'd wear sweatpants, and everyone else had like short shorts.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it, created more conversation, but in my mind, I was covering things up and hiding and just trying to,
Yeah.
not be embarrassed for being a handicapped kid. So then, yeah, so I don't know. So I did 60 days of P90X, and then, I don't know. I mean, I feel like I was getting a lot of strength. I was getting stronger. I felt like I was doing a lot of things that were kind of cool for a kid with a prosthetic, that something shifted in me that I kind of became proud instead of embarrassed at that time. And then I decided at that point, well, maybe this is kind of cool that I was able to do this extreme home fitness program that didn't really exist before. I don't know, and something in me shifted on day 60.
Yeah, on one piece of that, I just want it to be said that for anybody that lived through the male short shorts era, it was actually better to wear sweatpants than men's short shorts. So consider yourself lucky that you chose that path in that little time of your life.
I don't know, Bjorn Borg pulled it off pretty well.
Yeah. There's very few people that pulled it off very well.
Yeah. Not you and me.
No, definitely not me. And I know I had to wear them at a point in time in my life. No, I think that one of the coolest things that I found about you, and I mean, obviously, I was a fan of Super Troopers. It's a great movie. We'll get in a little bit of that because I think the story behind what you and your team at Broken Lizard have been able to accomplish is nothing short of amazing, and a tie into irrational determination and foolish perseverance. So you, but to finish up the P90X thing, did you, and I don't know the answer to this. I never really asked you, but did you find that there were people that had, whether it was they were missing a limb or an amputee or had some sort of what they thought a disability? Did you find a number of people that reached out to you? Did you feel a feeling of accomplishment to help others like you initially went to do when you took those pants off?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I was looking to have direct contact with anyone. I mean, not that I didn't want that, but I wasn't like waiting for anyone to come up to me and say, "Hey, you changed my life."
Yeah.
The reason I say that is I sort of got into this idea of speaking when I was in high school. We used to have speakers that sometime would come speak in my high school. And there was a woman that showed up one day, and she's, in a formal skirt and dressed nicely. And from where I was, the vantage point in the audience, I didn't recognize that anything was different with this woman. Her name was Ruby. And she was a model in New York City. And I said, oh, she's going to be here talking about fashion or something. And then she starts telling the story about, she was a model in New York City, but she lost her leg to cancer. And she was actually up on stage having this prosthetic and lived a full life. And I don't know, it just sort of gave me this glimmer of hope that, wow, there's somebody else up there that looks like me that I never ever see. I mean, growing up, I never saw anyone else with a prosthetic or artificial legs or eyes or legs or arms or spleens or whatever, just. So then when she spoke, I was like, it's cool. So I thought, well, maybe one day after I achieve something, accomplish something, maybe I'll go back and give a talk, and maybe it'll reach some in the audience that I never hear from or talk to, but maybe one day they'll say, okay, well, maybe there's something that they have. So my sort of message is, I say, you might not have a prosthetic body part, but everyone has a wooden leg of some sort.
Yeah.
Right. And even though we may see it as something we want to hide or be embarrassed of, maybe we can embrace that and see it as something that we just take on as a challenge. So I'm hoping that it reached out to somebody out there in the audience, and maybe they gave them a little bit of a spark of hope.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had some people write me letters and emails and reach out afterwards as well. So yes.
It's funny. So I have a couple of friends that have your missing part of your leg. Another friend of mine, Aaron Ralston, who I'm friends with from 127 hours. His saying is, "Make your boulders your blessings," from the loss of his arm.
Right.
It's really amazing to put into perspective and to look at what as you kind of say, your weakness, or what you thought was kind of your weakness. You didn't want to be that handicap kid or handicap adult and everything. How you've been able to turn that so that it's relatable to anybody that's having problems or challenges in their life. And you've given back a lot. And how Dan and I and how the connection is, Dan's a a retired Marine, and you do a lot with military, and supporting them, and also supporting those that have lost limbs and doing things. I know I've seen some stories about it, and you and I have talked about a couple of those things, which I think is amazing. Because a lot of, what if you never took your pants off and didn't do anything? The impact that would have been minimal, but the impact that you've had since opening up and doing, I think, is phenomenal, and it's pretty cool. I think that one of the things that's always resonates with me with talking to you is that you don't know how to stop. Like, you don't know how to quit or give up. You just, like, literally, you're just always, like, failure is not an option. Like, failing would be stopping and just saying, all right, I give up. But I think in every aspect of what you do and how you do it, and you may fail. I'm sure you've definitely had failures, but you're not a failure, right? You've had failures, but you're not a failure.
We'll definitely keep going. That's for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, let's talk a little bit about the movie history, because I was doing some research. So I love comedy, right? So some of my favorite comedies are Slapshot, obvious, and I played hockey growing up. Brilliant. Classic.
Brilliant.
Caddyshack. I mean, there isn't a person that appreciates that can't appreciate Caddyshack with humor. Even at any age, even the younger kids, if you show them that movie, it's laugh, die laughing. Beverly Hills Cop. I don't know why I loved. I mean, Eddie Murphy was a great comedian, genius. Beverly Hills Cop 2, 3, 4, and however many other ones. I wasn't as big a fan, but Beverly Hills Cop was definitely one. Super Troopers. Probably my early mid-20s comedy that was the comedy of comedies, right? Which was your movie, made in 2001. And your budget of that movie was how much?
Oh, it was, if we're lucky, like in the million range. It was like $1 million.
So, and this is something really not many people know. You made that entire movie with $1 million budget, we'll say. Yes,
very low budget, very, very low budget in comparison to big films. I mean, $1 million is considered a very low budget movie. We made it independently, and then had to get into the Sundance Film Festival, and then had to hope it was sold.
So to put into perspective, that was 2001, a movie, phenomenal comedy, top level, cult following, because I'll get into the next part of Super Troopers 2 and beyond. Beverly Hills, I had to look this up just before we came on, because it was like hitting my brain. I'm like, I didn't know the exact number. Beverly Hills Cop was made in 1984. Their budget was $4 million, with $4 million of that going to Eddie Murphy. They came in at $13 million once it was completed. And then the other one was that I was able to find. Let me just pull it up real quick. Caddyshack, 1980, cost $7 million to make. How did you guys? What's that?
Think of all the stars in that. I mean, obviously inflation, like that in 1980, money went a lot farther, but.
Oh, 100%. So that would be 1980, 1984. That's 2, 3, or maybe even 4x what 2001 would have looked like for a cost associated with it. How did you do it, and what were you thinking?
We had pulled off a feature before that for $100,000, and so $1 million almost sounded like a lot to us.
Yeah,
we were scrappy. I mean, we came out of doing sketch comedy in New York City, where we would perform at this cabaret club in the West Village, and we would shoot these little short videos, and in order to show them, we would have to lug a gigantic television from our 2-story brownstone walk up. You have to lug it down these stairs, put it in a car, drive it down the West Village, and then a Friday night when it's really crowded and busy, and unload it, lift it up 2 flights of stairs, plug it in a VHS machine, and then somebody have to go park the car and run back. I mean, I don't know. We've always been really hungry and really scrappy. And gritty. I mean, I felt like we always felt like everything we did was like going out in the barn and putting on a show. And we had each other. I mean, the cool thing was we had there are 5 of us who we all were kind of hungry and willing to do what it took.
Yep. So
and that was hard. It was hard. Like when we were shooting Puddle Cruiser, $100,000. There's, we were all living in a fraternity house with, meals that were just cooked in mass. all of us showering, in a fraternity shower. And they were professional adults who knew how to make movies. They were like, what is this, And one day the director of photography took off. He's like, I can't do this anymore. It's hard.
Yeah.
But we were willing to do what it took. And we showed up to shoot Super Troopers in the first week. We were shooting at the side of a highway. It was August. It was hot. There's no catering. There's no bathrooms. The crew was like, what is this? This isn't professional. And they were about to leave, right? They were about to quit because it was really hard. And our producer had to say, he had tears welling up in his eyes, and he was like, please, 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 this is such a passion project for us. We've been trying to get this off the ground for 5 years. We scraped together every dime we could. We'll do whatever it takes to try to make you guys happy. Tomorrow will be better. We'll get some food. We'll get bathrooms. All these simple things,
Yeah.
I think it was the Afghan that showed up on one of the first days and shooting the side of a highway. And he's like, can I get a cup of coffee? I was like, coffee?
It's August. It's hot out. What are you, crazy?
We don't have coffee.
Yeah.
We are Hollywood budget movie,
Yeah. So you were actually like the 1978 Animal House real life story, because there's another great comedy right there. Belushi's probably in an air conditioned camper in 1978, got 3 people waiting on him, and then goes and films this movie of chaos and catastrophe. You guys are like the real deal of it.
Yeah, we were lucky. It turned out. Yeah, it was fun though. If we would have the energy at this age to go back and do that, I'm not sure, but it was great. It's really good memories.
Yeah. Just as a frame of reference, I got Puddle Cruiser a long time ago, got it on DVD. For the life of me, so I've been doing some homework because I wanted this to be not just personalized because you're my friend, but I also wanted it to be something that was meaningful and that I was well covered. As I told you, I've listened to all but one of your 28 podcasts you've done over time, and I took out some of your library of movies, and I couldn't find Puddle Cruiser, and I haven't seen it in forever, and I started freaking out. Guess how much it's for sale for right now?
On like eBay or something?
Amazon, $44.99.
What? I was gonna guess $2.
Yeah, no, $44.99.
It's hard to find.
Yeah, Slam and Salmon's $2.
Right.
But it's on Instant. But I already own that, which is a great movie in my opinion. I laughed my ass off on that one a lot. They just like there's a good level of humor to it. So so Super Troopers comes out, you make it for $1 million. How does it do?
Well, it was interesting. So we had made Puddle Cruiser, and we went to Sundance with Puddle Cruiser, and then that allowed us to get this money. And so we wrote it, and we took this. Well, first of all, before that, we wrote the script. We went to Hollywood, and people said, "This is a funny script. We really like it. Who do you think would be good to act in it?" And we were like, "Us." We wanted to be like Monty Python or Kids in the Hall.
Yeah.
And as soon as we told anyone that, they were like, good luck on this movie. They weren't going to make it with us acting and starring in it.
Yeah.
And so then we had to go back and raise this money independently. So then we had to go make it independently, and then we had to get into the Sundance Film Festival, which the odds of that are very, very slim. But we had our last movie in it, so that they knew that we knew how to make movies. Puddle Cruiser got into Sundance, then Super Troopers got into Sundance in 2000. And then by the grace of God, Fox Searchlight happened to pick it up because they saw an audience that was laughing and responding to it. So then it came out in theaters. And again, we obviously were not movie stars. So it did, in the box office, it did pretty well for a movie that didn't have movie stars. I think it ultimately made about $18 million in the box office, which is a very good number for a movie that has a bunch of unknown actors in it.
Mm-hmm.
And then it did, and then mostly I think it found its life on DVD. A year or two later, we didn't really get much pop off of it right away, but it was like a year or two later, you'd see people. You'd go out to a baseball game, or you'd be somewhere, and people would be yelling, "Hey, Farva!" or they'd be coming at you with a bottle of maple syrup. So you'd see all these little things were starting to resonate. The people would start reciting lines to you: "Meow," "Shenanigans," "Bear fucker." All these kind of things that people start yelling at you in public when you're with your parents. Yeah. Hey, bear fucker! Hey. So then it started. Yeah, so it was like this cult thing. You mentioned that kind of became this cult movie. Yeah, like a Rocky Horror Picture Show or something. It's something that kind of caught on via
Yeah.
DVD. I think people passed DVDs around.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
how it's kind of life.
2001 was a different time, no
Yeah.
high-speed internet. Yeah, people had DVDs, Blu-rays were out. People actually bought Blu-ray players, which I never got into, but CD players. You didn't have MP3s. That Napster was just out there. So yeah, so it's a lot easier. I think it's probably a little bit easy. Well, it's a lot easier to build a cult following on social media and other places today than it was back then. And so that was 2001. We met in 2011 or 2012, and while it was cult following and all sorts of greatness to the Super Troopers, there was no sequel that followed, and I think that most people after a period of time would be like, man, do people want to see more of Rabbit? Do they want to see more of Thorny and Farva? And do they want more? You guys in what, 2014 or 15, right?
About 15, yeah.
Yeah, 15. You guys did something that's only been done a couple of times, I think, and I think you're the second highest next to, I can't remember who it was, that crowdfunded your movie, right?
Yeah, it was an interesting process. We right after Super Troopers, there was a lot of interest in doing a sequel, but we had this background as a sketch comedy group,
Mm-hmm.
and we were heavily influenced by like Monty Python making Holy Grail and then Life of Brian and stuff. So we were interested in trying to make not a sequel per se, but another movie where we could play different characters and write different plot lines. So then we had made Club Dread and then Beer Fest and Simon Sammon. So some time went by, and there was a time kind of maybe 5 or 6 or 7 years after Super Troopers came out that we started writing Super Troopers 2 when we went back to Fox Searchlight, and they were interested and they liked the script. But then again, we made a couple more movies, and so I don't know. It's a bit complicated story, but when we finally went back to them, they just didn't know. And like the question you're asking is, they just didn't know if the audience was still there, right? Like, had we made the sequel right away, they would have made it. But here we are, 15 years later. Like, hey, you want to make a sequel to a movie from 15 years ago? And they were like, we like the script, we like you guys. We're not sure if the audience is there, right?
Right.
And so we're like, well, people, we would say, like, people are asking us all the time, where's the sequel? And we seem to feel that was an interest was out there, because on the street we would have interaction with people where they were telling us that they wanted it.
Mm-hmm.
But the studio just they never experienced that, right? So they didn't know if that there was going to be a demand.
Yep.
So ultimately they said, well, we just aren't sure. And so then we said, well, we didn't want to give up on it. Again, this idea of like determination and perseverance. We didn't want to give up on the idea. So we knew Veronica Mars, and I think maybe Zach Braff had done a crowdfunding campaign that was successful at Garden State. Maybe it was there a sequel to Garden State. I know there was Veronica Mars. And so we said, well, maybe we could crowdfund it. There seems to be an interest, and we feel like there's an audience out there for it. So, we put this crowdfunding campaign together, and we had no idea if it was going to work.
Mm-hmm.
We first hit that start button on day one. We didn't know if you're going to make $5, $10. A lot of crowdfunding campaigns just, they don't take off. So we were nervous. We were terrified, right? We had no idea. We felt like we put together a pretty strong campaign. We spent like 6 weeks putting together this campaign. The whole campaign was, if you want to see Farva get out of the trunk, help us make Super Troopers 2,
Yeah.
right? That was like kind of our campaign. If you want to get Farva out of the trunk. And we were just blown away, and we hit our goal, I think, in 24 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, your initial goal was like $1 million or something like that, right? Or was it, what was the original, like what you thought? And you guys had like, what was interesting was you had like thresholds. It's like, if you want a real live bear in the movie, we need to get to $2 million or whatever the number was. But was the original number that you were hopeful to get to was much lower than what you ended up with?
I think we originally, if I remember this several years ago, was set the original full budget. It's a 30-day Indiegogo thing. You have 30 days to raise your goal. And I think we set our goal at $2 million.
Mm-hmm.
And we thought that would take 30 days to reach if we were lucky. And I think we reached it in 20 or 24 hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then doubled it after 30 days. But we just
I mean,
kept the campaign every day, and we tried to interact with people, and we tried to have these goals, because at a certain level you can't do things, right? So we had different scripts for different levels,
mm-hmm.
and then we keep saying, well, if you want a live bear, if you want car chases, if you want Brian Cox, these certain things that would require more money, so we would have these levels. It just kept going up and kept going up, so we got to get all the things that we wanted.
What was I mean, I'm assuming you probably know this. What was like the biggest donation or the largest? Because you were with what you were paying, what you were giving as through the crowdfund, you were getting a T-shirt. I've got a script, the original Super Trooper script. What was the largest contribution or the biggest single amount?
I think the single biggest amount, I think it came in the first day, was we auctioned off an original Trooper car from the first movie.
I think I missed that.
Or it was a Trooper car,
yeah.
But I can't remember if it was from Super Troopers or if it was one of the cars that we were going to use in the movie, and then they would take it home afterwards.
Yeah.
That went day one to an individual. And then we thought, well, this is great. Maybe we could auction off several cars. But then the person said, well, it was listed as one of a kind, and I liked it because I'm a collector.
Yeah.
And so we honored them. We said, great, totally understand. So we just auctioned off that one car.
I think it was one of the things was like 25 grand, and all of you guys would be in someone's wedding. Did anybody step up on that one?
We did offer to inseminate somebody. And nobody took us up. We would father someone's child. No one took us up on that offer. I was surprised. It's not like some rich Russian oligarch's daughter would take us up on that. And we were trying to figure out, would they pick one of us? I mean, we had the conversation with our wives. We had to ask if everyone was cool with it. and then we were kind of nervous, like, oh, what if this happens? And then we were thinking, oh, what? Would they pick one of us? Like, would they want to have Farva's kid? Would they want to have Thorny's kid? Or would they want all of us to, like, put everything into a salad spinner?
Yeah.
And you would have traits of all of us.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes complete sense. I mean, I that's kind of one of the things that I would probably put on my crowdfund as an option, Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You don't know. You don't know if someone's going to pick that. That was going to be the whole budget. If they did that, then they had to fund the whole movie.
Yeah.
And then there was, like, I think 25 grand, we'd be a bridesmaids or groomsmen at your wedding. No one took us up on that. There were a couple inquiries, but those are fun stuff. We wanted to make it fun. There were, like, obviously T-shirts and signed scripts, and we did these mega scripts. I think for Super Troopers 2, we did a Super Troopers 1 original script, and then we did Super Troopers 2 where we made handwritten personal notes, or we took notes that we had made on our scripts of our characters, and we included those in the script so people got to see some behind the scene kind of thought process behind it.
Yeah.
Fun stuff. We just wanted it to be interactive. We want to make it with the fans. So there's a ton of the perks where people came on set. And so these days that we had big scenes, or Rob Lowe would come on weekends, and so the people got to come on weekends, and they got to meet Rob Lowe, and Rob was really cool at interacting with them, and we'd all have lunch together, and so that was fun.
Yeah, that hits me with something that's amazing about you and your team, because I'm sure that if I called you and said, and I know you've done it, you've actually, because we're friends, you've sent me some stuff for charity that I was doing, but what really set the whole thing apart for me was I had a couple of friends. I was in Denver, and when you guys did the telethon on April 21st or April 22nd, 2015. So I just missed you. You were in Denver on April 20th. And I had some friends that contributed, and they sent me a message, shortly thereafter, and they're like, man, those guys are awesome. And I was like, yeah, well, I know Stolhanske, but I'm assuming you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So I'm guessing the other guys are pretty good too. And he says they autographed everything, and I got a card with it. And he got, like, the script and the T-shirt, and it wasn't even a lot. It was like, well, I mean, it was a lot. It's $100 or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
But he was amazed at the. And I'm assuming you guys, it was all your handwritings and you guys all signed it, but you had to have signed thousands or tens of thousands of items to make sure that everybody.
That was our determination to make this movie, man. We want to make this movie.
And that's the recipe of how you have raving fans, is that commitment and dedication. I mean, you wouldn't find that in a $50 million budgeted film that's not going out and grinding and looking for it. You're not going to have, no offense to Will Ferrell, I love Will Ferrell, but you're not going to have, Will Ferrell signing autographs to send out for, hey, thanks for your contribution or buying your movie ticket. I mean, you guys basically did that for however many number of thousands.
We also traveled around before the movie came out. We traveled around to, I want to say, for 2 weeks, 14 cities, maybe more. We did advanced screenings for Indiegogo contributors. And, we were at the screening. We did a Q&A afterwards. We hung out afterwards, got to talk and hang out with anybody that wanted to get anything signed or meet or just hang out. And we would do that. I think we flew to like 14 different cities to have these screenings with people. So it really was a really cool interactive process.
Yeah, you came to Boston for, yeah, because you flew from like Toronto. You were on this crazy tour because you had a screening.
Yeah,
I remember you gave me like, and you weren't even planning on coming. It was like a last minute redirect from, I think, Toronto or someplace, and flying into Boston to make an appearance for the screening. Nobody was expecting you guys, and you sent me a message and were like, hey, you want to come to the screening? I'll be there in 2 hours. And I was like, I'm in Tennessee or wherever I was. Like, yeah, so you won't make it. This is an amazing story that most people probably don't see. And if they just go and watch you on screen, they just figure, well-funded, financed, and, good for them. And the reality is you guys grinded and dug harder than just about anybody. And I think and correct me if I'm wrong, but you could have made more money and had more surface success if you did that sequel right away, right? You had the following, you could have had the funding from the movie theaters, you could have done all that stuff. But you guys chose to do what you wanted to do, that you were passionate about, in the way that you wanted to do it. You never lost focus of what was important to you, which was what you loved and how you loved it.
Yeah, we made Club Dread afterwards, which at the time wasn't the. We look back like, I don't know if that was the. I mean, it was a good decision because it's what we wanted to do, what you're talking about, right? But financially, it wasn't as successful as Super Troopers 2 would have been. People were expecting the same characters, and we decided to try something very different. Horror comedy where we all play the opposite characters that we played in the last movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it was what we wanted to do. I mean, we loved it. And now I think a lot of people are catching on to Club Dread that didn't at the time. I mean, people were like, where's Farva? They just kind of really wrap their mind around the fact that we were a sketch comedy group and wanted to try different characters.
Yeah.
They see Kevin and they see Farva. And, they just want that.
Mm-hmm.
They just want Kevin to play that character. When in reality, we love playing all sorts of different characters.
Well, I think
that makes sense.
I think that's what keeps you who you are and keeps you grounded as the different characters that you are. You're not put in that position of, oh, that's just Rabbit. You're Erik Stolhanske that's played all these different roles that have their own uniqueness to them, and I think that's pretty cool. And I don't think there's enough of that. So I'm glad you've made the decisions you've made and done the things that you've done, and the success that you've seen from it, and the fanatic, raving fans that you have. Like I went and watched Super Troopers 2 3 or 4 times. I grabbed people wherever I was. Hey, you gotta go check out this movie. We gotta get some tickets in the box office. Get these guys paid, and seeing seeing the fans, they were there, they were excited, they felt like they were part of the family, and the laughter that everybody kind of had in unison. It's like your fans all have similar humor understanding.
Yeah.
And they all laugh at all the same stuff. And it's, there's movies that have different elements of causing people to laugh, right?
Yeah.
But your movies, you go sit in a movie theater, everybody laughs in sync. And as I've told you, and one of the things that got me to ask you to do this podcast with me is the importance of laughter. I think you have one of the greatest career opportunities, which is getting people to smile and laugh in a world that we don't do enough of it at. And I just think that's really cool.
Thanks. Yeah. Humor is, I can't say enough about it. We could all use it in our daily lives, how it just break down barriers and get us to connect more, communicate better, and relate to each other so much more. Just relax a little bit, breathe, and just find ways to make each other laugh.
Yeah. And yeah, no, that's good point to kind of transition into the probably the how we got here and what we're doing. You're in Minneapolis. It goes without saying we're in July, and in May, Minneapolis just had an absolute tragedy, a murder that rocked the country, and unfortunately, that turned into a lot of justifiably angry people. Some put it in the right ways, and some people didn't, and were incredibly destructive to their own communities or to communities that they chose to protest in. And I saw a couple of videos that you posted that you were reluctant, I believe, to post of downtown Minneapolis and areas that were hit pretty hard. Um, and it struck me. I mean, I'd love to hear. You know, I can't imagine what that was like. You're a, how do you say, a Minneapolis, a Minnesotan?
Sure.
Uh,
Absolutely, yeah.
you're a Minnesotan. I mean, what was that all like for you, and what was the emotions that you felt doing it and putting that video out? You know, what were you?
Yeah, basically, my wife and I, we drove around several days after sort of the big, big events, and we've, just documented, I guess. We took some video of the different neighborhoods that had been burned down and boarded up, and we took video of it. And I guess the reason I was hesitant to post it is, like, I wasn't trying to make a political statement and I don't like when people on social media just jump to the idea of having to politically have their point of views and like criticize each other. That wasn't my point. It was more documenting for people to see, firsthand what it was like and the impact that all this had. It's never something I would have expected in the town that I grew up in. And I hear that from a lot of people. People say, wow, I never thought that was going to happen in Minneapolis. But obviously it did, and it was here, and it's real. And you still feel it as you drive around. Still, stores are closed. And I was watching the local news last night, and a guy whose restaurant was burned down. He had been saving his whole life, for this restaurant, and it got burned down to the ground in the riots. And he was like, what did I do to deserve this? And he didn't have enough insurance. And so there's a crowdfunding campaign to help him get his restaurant back up in the neighborhood, which is cool, that you see the support from people coming together to help. And that's encouraging. You just hope that there's something positive comes out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think the town right now is kind of hurting, and a lot of people are wondering, do I, bring my business here? Do I restart a business here? And you just hope that there's some positive change that comes out of it, and then gets back to being a town that people are proud to be in, part of.
Yeah. It's Minneapolis, St. Paul, or I love it out there. I've always,
you came here and you won the lottery.
Yeah.
You did some scratch offs at the airport,
Yeah.
right? You won a scratch off ticket, and then you bought Barbara and I burgers and beers at this really great
the Happy Gnome.
Closed, the Happy Gnome, which was a great restaurant, and it just recently closed.
The tri-meat burger, venison. What was it? There was 3 different meats to it.
Was it beef and buffalo?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, it was fantastic.
Place was great.
Yeah. No, that was July 2015. My house is completely destroyed. I'm going a last minute business trip that I'm going to be in Minnesota and Wisconsin for about 24 hours. And I get to the gate. If anybody knows the Minneapolis St. Paul airport, it is enormous.
It's big. It's a hub, international hub,
Yeah, and so I'm at the gate. I'm on a conference call, and I'm pacing. I've had no sleep, and I just keep walking by the gate, and there's this machine, and I just say, "Who puts a scratch ticket machine at the airport?" And the people on the call are like, "What?" And I'm like, "Oh, sorry, my inside voice came out." And I'm just staring at the thing. I don't know why. I'm just staring at it. And again, my house was completely destroyed from the polar vortex. I'm feeling all of the weight of finance and everything. And I just go, guys, I got to go. I'm boarding my flight. Hang up the phone. I buy a $20 scratch ticket. I'll never forget it. And I'm walking down the jetway, and I'm scratching the ticket. And the person behind me is like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm just scratching this scratch ticket here." And I get done, and I'm like, "I just won $10,000. And they're like, what? I'm like, I just won $10,000. And I mean, I do 100 plus flights a year for the last 5-6 years. And this was unplanned. And, I had a decision to make: stay in Minnesota one more day and go to the lottery commission, or take my chances and mail it, or come back at another time or something like that. And I said, well, I'll just get on the plane and fly home. And I'm sitting here going, this is like that Alanis Morissette song where it's it's a lottery, dies the very next day, and I'm getting on a plane. I'm going, oh God, what do I do? What do I do? But yeah, I won 10 grand, and I called the lottery commission when I gave them the ticket. It takes a while to process because they only have 50 $10,000 winners on a $20 ticket. Like, that's like a $1 or a $5 ticket in Massachusetts. That's like one of the lower prizes. But this was like one of their grand prizes. I remember I called the lottery commission, and this woman answers the phone, and all I could picture was my grandmother that's baking the neighborhood cookies. She's like, hello? And I go, is this the lottery commission? She's like, oh, yes, sweetie. How can I help you? I'm like, I'm just trying to see if you guys, processed my check. Did everything go all right? And she's like, oh, is this Josh? Honest to God, call the Minnesota Lottery Commission. And she's like, is this Josh? I'm like, I guess you don't have a lot of checks that you process. She's like, nope, put it in the mail yesterday. I was like, this is great. But yeah, no, won the lottery in 2015, 10 grand.
That's fantastic.
So now listeners know you get a kind of a winner of the lottery. It wasn't Mega Millions or Powerball, but it was still a big win in Minnesota.
Good timing for you during that polling.
Oh, yeah, it's been crazy couple of years, but great years because I get great people around me, and very, very lucky. One of the things, parting thoughts, I think everybody should follow you on social media. One of the things you've become much more active on social media, and the reason why I did want to do this podcast was because it was probably sometime in April. You just randomly started putting just a box with the day on it. You're like, Tuesday. And then it was Wednesday, then it was Thursday, and finally I'm like, hey, thanks for reminding me what day it is. And I sent you a text, and then like 4 days later, your post pops up, and I'm like, geez, all this time I thought it was Monday, and it's really Wednesday. Like, it came in handy. But you literally get hundreds of shares every single day of a post that just says what day it is.
It's amazing.
I mean, think about that's like, you just put the day every day. You have the human calendar for social media.
And even when people don't like it on social media, I'll run into people and they'll be like, hey, thanks for reminding me what date it is. Like, they'll scream at me in the hallway. I'm like, hey, welcome. I didn't even, I think it would turn into anything, but a lot of people do like check.
Yep.
These as their calendars.
Well, I think, like I say, you're on Instagram, you're on Facebook. You don't do much on LinkedIn, but you're there too.
Facebook, Instagram.
You're on Twitter too? I haven't done much with Twitter now that I found out everybody got hacked, and they can't, even if you change your password. Did you hear about that?
No, was that recent?
Yeah, it was like yesterday. Like Bill Gates, like all of the major Twitter, all the major people, there was apparently a pretty serious like hack that I don't even know the whole deal, but it was like they were asking you to send Bitcoin and they were going to match it. I think Obama got hacked, and they said even changing your password wasn't gonna fix it. They were in.
They raised like $100,000 on that scam yesterday.
It's just crazy.
I know. How do people fall for that? But I guess it must have appeared to be real.
Well, I mean, you have to think that you follow someone. Like if I followed you, and there's a post there and says, hey, we had great success with our movie, I'm going to match everything up to $5,000. I mean, people today, it's amazing when you think about. We only hear about the bad stories, right? We only hear about the GoFundMes that go wrong. The New Jersey couple that the woman, took the last $20 that the homeless guy had, raised hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then spent it all. We only hear about those stories. We don't hear about the feel-good, great stories that happen, that people are supporting, that have as positive an outcome as possible. And this country has a lot of people that are very giving. That restaurant you're talking about, I think that was he was a firefighter. Was that the right one? He hadn't opened. Yeah. There's one that he and his wife, he was a firefighter. They took their life savings in retirement, and they were building a restaurant, and they literally they were like weeks from opening, and then it was set on fire and burned down, and they didn't have insurance. They didn't have the insurance. I think the story is that they didn't have the proper insurance because they weren't open yet.
Yeah, this guy was saying, people just don't know what the proper insurance is. So you think you might have it, and then this happens, and you realize you don't have it after it's too late. So
right. Well, hopefully they raise all the money needed because it's much deserved. But we have, if we look past all of the stuff, we have some of the most generous and giving people, and sadly, there's a lot of folks out there that want to take advantage, not just and the laugh is the emails we get, dear Josh, I'm your long lost sixth cousin from England, and I've got $78 million for you, and all you have to do is put $750 to Western Union, and I'll send it to you, type of thing.
right.
It comes in all shapes and sizes. So, definitely be on the lookout. Be on the lookout. Don't give money to folks you don't know, or even the ones that you do know. Make sure you fact check it. But went completely off
It seems
track.
like free money, it ain't.
Oh yeah. Nothing's free. It all comes. If anything you get out of this, it's hard work, grinding. It's rational determination and foolish perseverance. So how do people get a hold of you? You said you just did a speaking gig recently. I'm sure you could do virtual keynotes or in-person keynotes as this happens. That's something you still want to continue to do?
Yeah, it's been fun. I was happy that I got to go to California, and now things are kind of spiking. I was there a couple weeks ago, and I love being in front of people and interacting with people. I got a slide presentation, and I did it with your business as well, and it's fun being in front of an audience. I haven't delivered a virtual one yet, but I assume I could.
Yeah.
So I do have a website, but it got hacked every day. I just get 100 spams in it, so I don't use that as a reliable source. If anybody is interested in inquiring about speaking, best way to reach me is through Facebook or Instagram.
Yeah, and it's Erik, Erik Stolhanske.
Yeah, I'm with a couple speakers bureaus as well, but you can probably just contact me through social media.
I'll put all of your stuff on the show notes on all of this. Appreciate you taking the time. I'm just glad you and I got to see each other in person. I get tired of texting and calling and giving you an occasional hard time. And
you gotta find a vaccine.
Yeah, gotta find something.
World.
Yeah. Yep. No, that's this has been, one of the things that this has been. You and I haven't seen each other in 5 years. It's hard to believe. We've been friends for almost 10, and we've passed each other in airports. We've been in each other's cities, and the other's been somewhere else. But we haven't actually seen each other in 5 years. And I think that if everything was the way that it was, we probably wouldn't see each other yet now. So I think the good aspect to this is that you and I got to spend a little time virtually, as close to in person as possible.
Yeah.
And
it's a good way to
share some of this.
It's a good way to reconnect with people. I mean, you feel like you're in the same room.
Oh yeah. Well,
Have a
except for mine, I
conversation.
look like I'm in like a shower or something. I gotta work on the curtain in the studio space in the basement. Just glad the dogs didn't bark or anybody shut the lights off on me or anything. They actually remembered I was down here. Up with a cellar dweller doing work down there.
It's fine. Just leave your dad alone. He's down there working.
Yeah. He's down in the basement, cobbling away, figuring out how to make things happen.
You're grinding it out, man. It's all about grinding it out.
This is hard. I think this is going to be the hardest, I hope there's parts of me that hopes that this is the hardest, most challenging time of my life. And there's parts of me that when I think about it, I think that the accomplishments that many of us will have on the other end of this, not only will make us smarter, stronger, and faster, it will make us much better. And that's my hope. And if something's more challenging, I hope that it's not at the cost of the lives and finances and everything else that's hit everybody, all in different levels. I mean, none of us are actually in the same boat. We're all in a boat, and they all have holes, but they're different sizes. And I listen to, some people's stories, and I think I'm really lucky. And then there's stories I listen to, and I go, wow, I got it really, really tough. But it's all mindset, and my mind wasn't right for a while. So hopefully I'm back on track. I actually feel like I'm in a studio. I got light boxes and monitors and all sorts of stuff down here, and I'm hoping to get somebody to finish off a little space so it looks a little bit more professional, but work in progress. So
good. You're grinding it out. I love it, man.
Yeah.
I always liked your attitude, Josh. So it's good talking to you.
You too, my friend. So that'll do it here. I appreciate you, Erik. Stay safe out there and keep putting the days on, because God knows I forget at least 4 or 5 of those days that end in Y. Just great to have.
Hopefully we all stay safe and can keep society open a little bit, so we don't have to completely shut it down. It's nice to be partially open right now.
Well, let's plan to see each other in person when all this stuff lifts. We'll figure out a way to either put my miles to use or figure out where we're in the same city at some point, hopefully in the near future. So
sounds good, Josh. Good talking to you, buddy.
Appreciate you too. And that'll do it for this episode of the Be Awesome podcast. This was great to be able to catch up to a friend from a distance and talk about their raving fans and everything that Erik has done over the course of his career and the course of his life. Hopefully you guys got a little bit out of that, and we're back on track. We've been off for a little bit, we took a staycation of sorts from the podcast, but we're going to get back and working to get some more keeping it local guests to promote our Easton businesses and people that are keeping their businesses going, their lives going as best as they can through these challenging times, and keeping our community together, which is most important right now. So thanks for listening. As always, you're keeping me at the top 6% of podcast channels. I think that's where I'm rated, or at least where I tell myself I'm rated. It all comes with ratings, reviews, downloads, subscriptions, likes, and shares. That's how people measure podcasts by. And as I said a couple podcasts ago, there's over 1 million podcasts. When I started 2 years ago, there were 650,000 podcast channels. There's over 1 million today, and only 100,000 of them have 10 likes or comments. That's if you don't have 10 family or friends that can do likes and comments for you. I don't know what happens there. But I'm very blessed to have 55 or 56 family, friends, and Be Awesome followers that have been kind enough to give me their time and their words on the iTunes podcast channel. So hopefully you continue that, because I want to continue to grow this and make sure that people see, hear, and learn from my great guests, because they make this whole thing happen. So if you can be anything, be awesome. Talk to you soon.